You matter and you are loved. Come, let us worship together. Good morning. Welcome to Mission Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Annette Bringen, and I'm a member of the board. We are so glad you joined us this morning. Unitarian Universalism is a radically inclusive, non-doctrinal, open-minded, and open-hearted faith. We are all coming at truth from different paths. We gather together across different identities, experiences, and beliefs to affirm and promote the inherent worth of every person. Together, we see our job is to love this world, to heal the hurt in ourselves and in one another, and to be the change we'd like to see in the world. Maybe you're here for the first time. If so, we are glad to welcome you. We post links in the chat to our welcome email and to our weekly newsletter so you can see upcoming events. We encourage you to join anything that speaks to you. We have social hour after the service where we get to visit with one another on the patio or in Zoom breakout rooms. The worship host will give you more information about this immediately after the service. We also use the chat in Zoom or our Joys and Concerns book by the door to share significant personal milestones, which will be read aloud later in the service. Everyone attending the service, both inside and outside of Cole Hall, should be masked. We allow worship leaders, associates, and other service participants to be unmasked while speaking if they voluntarily disclose that they are vaccinated and are 10 feet from other attendees. You can find more information about our safety policies on our website or on the bulletin board to your left. I have one special announcement for you this morning. Please remember to sign up to help us to have hybrid services. See the Week on the Peak for further information. If you hear or see something in this morning's service that inspires you or makes you laugh or brings you hope, please share it on social media or just tell a friend. We are trying to start a wave of love and justice with every gathering. Thank you for joining us. And now, please join in our first hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit, which should also be put up.
the Spirit, harvest abound. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our tribes in this light, our heroes sing. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing our laden store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
Reciting these words which call us together as a community with the Unitarian Universalists all across the globe. We light this chalice, remind ourselves to treat all people kindly because we are all one family, to take good care of the earth because it is our home, to live lives full of goodness and love because that's how we'll become the best people we can be. And now we have the opportunity to listen to a story for all ages that's being read by the author of the story, Todd Parr. The time for the story for all ages is Don't Worry. So it's good advice for us all.
Hey everyone, it's Todd. And I don't know if you're like me, but lately I've been worrying a lot. I've had a lot of different feelings, and I worry, but I've always worried. So last year I wrote a book about it to help others because I thought maybe everybody worries like me. So I wrote a book about it to help you feel better about worrying. So now I thought it would be a good time for me to read the Don't Worry book with you. And when I'm all done, you won't be worried. Sometimes you worry. Worrying happens when you think too much about a problem or feel afraid that something bad is going to happen. Or when you meet someone new for the first time. When someone is being mean. When it's dark. When you are trying to sleep. Or when you have to go to the bathroom. When you go somewhere new. When you are alone. Or when you have too much to do. You might worry when it rains. When you get sick or you have to go to the doctor. When watching TV. Notice my dogs, Pete, Tater, Todd, and Jerry. Or from looking at screens too much. I do this. You might worry when someone is being loud. When you go to school. Or when you overhear some bad news. Worrying can make you sad. When you worry, try doing something to keep yourself busy, like talking to someone special, taking deep breaths, practice, visiting friends, wearing underwear on your head. Who writes these books? Reading a book, dancing. How many of you like to dance? How many of you would like to see me dance? It's not happening. Exercising, squeezing a toy, or thinking about the things that make you strong. And remembering everyone who loves you and takes care of you. All these people are there to take care of you. Worrying doesn't help you. If you are worried, talk to someone you love about it and it will make you feel better. The end. Love, Todd. Now, are you still worried? If you are, maybe you could draw something. Maybe you could practice drawing like me. And how many of you think you can draw better than me? Everyone, raise your hands. And how many of you would like to write your own book? Maybe now would be a fun time to start making your own book and just put messages or art. And your book can be about anything. I hope you have fun. Keep reading. Don't worry. The end. Love, Todd.
We come together every Sunday all throughout the week for more than just ourselves. We come together to support one another and the ministries that infuse worth and dignity into our children, our youth, our programs of learning and leadership, and our ministries in the larger world, including our efforts towards anti-racism and anti-oppression. Please make a contribution towards these worthy causes by mailing your checks to Mission Peak UU congregation at the address on the screen. You can also use the bill pay option in your online banking or drop a check into the Mission Peak mail slot. Or you can pay online with a credit or debit card. Thank you for supporting and sustaining the efforts of our members, friends, and staff. Your contributions make loving, learning, and leadership more possible. One of the things that allows us to find hope and meaning, especially in hard times, is the love and support we show one another. If you have, yes?
We show a video. Oh, I guess you have to give the introduction. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay. If you have a joy or concern that by sharing with this caring community might bring the encouragement or resilience you are needing, please write it briefly in the chat, those of you who are online. If you're in person and you'd like to place a stone for a joy and concern in our stone garden here, you may do so while the music plays. If your need is personal You can also send an email to me for a follow-up conversation. That's com_minister@mpuuc.org. So you drop stones. So I will read a joy that was written into the book.
Finally, one last stone for the hopes and hearts still too tender to escape our heart. May we, for the sake of love, keep our doors, our hearts, our minds, and our arms open. Thank you.
the golden sky and the sweet silver song of a walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll
Good morning. I was supposed to read the reading from Jacob Trapp first, so I'm going to read that now and then go right into the message. It's hymn number 442 from our hymnal. To worship is to stand in awe under a heaven of stars, before a flower, a leaf in sunlight, or a grain of sand. To worship is to be silent, receptive before a tree, a stir with the wind, or the passing shadow of a cloud. To worship is to work with dedication and with skill. It is to pause from work and listen to a strain of music. To worship is to sing with the singing beauty of the earth. It is to listen through a storm to the still small voice within. Worship is loneliness seeking communion. It is a thirsty land crying out for the rain. Worship is kindred fire within our hearts. It moves through deeds of kindness and through acts of love. Worship is the mystery beyond us, reaching out to the mystery beyond. It is inarticulate silence, yearning to speak. It is the window of the moment open to the sky of the eternal. In Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust concentration camp survivor, says, man is not fully conditioned and determined, but rather determines himself whether he gives in to the conditions or stands up to them. In other words, man is ultimately self-determining. Man does not simply exist, but always decides what his existence will be, what he will become in the next moment. Once upon a time, long ago, I headed for my yearly mammogram with just the normal slight unease it always brought. Breast cancer didn't run in my family, at least not that I knew of, but the exam itself brought up the fear of possibility. After the uncomfortable procedure, I let go of all thought about it. A few weeks later, I received a phone call telling me that I needed to repeat the mammogram procedure. I felt worry wash over me as I made the appointment. The niggling concerns edged their way into the back of my mind and colored my thoughts and actions. Standing at the kitchen sink, loading the dishwasher, tears dripped silently down my cheek. What did this mean? Did I have cancer? In an online article in Psychology Today, Leslie Becker Phelps, PhD, writes, when faced with situations that pull for some particular reaction, we can choose to respond instead. She goes on to discuss the fact that people often react without thinking. We frequently don't choose our behaviors so much as simply act them out. The tendency for most of us is to unconsciously act out worst case scenarios. Becker Phillips then brings us Viktor Frankl's suggestions that we can grow and change and be different if we learn to recognize, increase, and make use of the space before we react. Pushing my fears to the back of my mind, I returned a week later to repeat the mammogram process. I went about my mom duties, holding tight onto the information that this radiology technician had given me, that there were a number of benign reasons they could need another mammogram, such as a blurred image or to pinpoint a certain section. A few days later, I received a phone call from my GP, who called in person to let me know that I needed to return for an ultrasound. My anxiety skyrocketed. I'd been bravely holding on, not letting my feelings show to my family. But now I broke down into sobs. My youngest son and daughter came running and threw their arms around me, wanting to know what was wrong. I slowly explained that I had to do a test that I was scared of and reassured them that I was all right. 2 weeks later, I had the ultrasound. And this time they gave me the results immediately. I was to be referred to a surgeon. All the maybes and what ifs suddenly felt all too real. This meant they would cut into me, remove the lump they'd found, and I really could have cancer. As I drove home, I was shaking with fear, convinced I was going to die. I had to pull over once to calm myself enough to drive the rest of the way home. As I came into the front door, my 3 children were sprawled over the couch and chairs, laughing and joking, so free and happy. Tears filled my eyes. Not wanting to face them in my terrified condition and wanting to spare them the pain of my anxiety, I ran upstairs to my room. Throwing myself into my favorite chair, I rolled into a ball and cried. My thoughts spiraled in anguish, overwhelmed all reason. Around and around, over and over, I thought of all the things I wanted to do, the people I loved, the places I wanted to see, and most of all, I pictured my dear children and how my death would affect them. In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen R. Covey writes that when we choose our response based on values, we are proactive. When we choose our response based on emotions or feelings, we are reactive. I wasn't aware of it at the time, but I was most definitely reacting to the situation I was in rather than being proactive. I wasn't choosing my behaviors, just acting them out. A fully human response, but one nevertheless that was causing me a great deal of pain. After a few minutes, the tears subsided and I dried them and looked out the window. My throat was tight and fear gripped me, body and soul. I felt myself sinking down into myself. The moment felt surreal, absurd, and beyond understanding. Suddenly, I saw a path branching into 2 paths. One path, the one I was about to walk down, would lead to a deep pit of despair. I could see the pit, feel the anguish streaming out of it. The pit was deep, but I could see into it. Rocks, strewn tree limbs, broken dreams, long yearned for realities lay scattered on the ground. This is now, I thought to myself. This is how I feel right now. I could see myself as a cancer patient, my hair falling out, hooked up to a machine, pumping me full of medication, slow death, flowers on my grave, my family crying. With effort, I jerked myself away from this path to the second one. This other path led to a beautiful garden with flowers and trees. Calmness and peace radiated from it. As I sat and observed this path, I was mesmerized by the grace and beauty that filled my whole being. It was like vines with deep, radiant purple flowers winding themselves into my thoughts. I felt connected to my children, my family, my friends. I was loved. Now, at that point, where the tendency could be to fall into the feeling that fate was the one doing the choosing surrounding what would happen and how, I suddenly realized I had a choice. I didn't need to stay in the pit of despair. It's possible I have cancer, but it's up to me how I react and act upon that news. In a flash, without any debate or hesitation, I leaped onto the path of calmness and peace. In E. Kübler-Ross's stages of grief, the 5th stage is acceptance. Acceptance is powerful because it returns to us our choice. Let me say that again. Acceptance is powerful because it returns to us our choice. The only requirement of this peaceful path was that I let go. As I accepted the possibilities of what might be, all the fear, doubt, and anguish just drained away, and I was flooded with new feelings: joy, acceptance, determination, delight, peace, groundedness, love, security, and confidence. If it turned out to be cancer, I would fight it all the way, but I would fight from a standpoint of determination rather than panic. I wouldn't let fear and anxiety steal one more moment of my life. Suddenly, I saw waves flow from the trees. Waves of love filled my being and flowed from everything around me. As I went downstairs to go for a walk, I paused at the living room and relished the love I felt for my children. As I walked the neighborhood, I soaked in the feelings of safety, calmness, joy, delight, and hope. This went on for a good hour or more as I roamed and just felt the peace of each single moment. Nothing had changed in my experience, yet everything had changed. The lump was still there, although I stopped checking it. The possibility of cancer was still there, although now I would fight it with strength and calmness. I discovered freedom in choice. In a single moment, I reached out and let go and found peace, awareness, and love. Stephen Covey says, our behavior is a function of our decisions, not our conditions. 2 weeks later, I went to the doctor's office to see the surgeon. My time waiting had been full of activities spent with my children and in delight of life itself. I lived in the moment, from moment to moment. We went to parks, ate picnic lunches, did chores, visited friends, all the while enjoying each day to the fullest and each moment rich with peace. I waited a long time to be called into the doctor's office. Plenty of time to notice the other women that shared the room with me, to sense their pain and anxiety, to notice the way one woman was repeatedly pulling and twisting her hair. There was plenty of time for me to be anxious, yet I remained calm. Finally, it was my turn. In the office, the doctor examined me, glanced up at me, and met my eyes. They seemed quizzical and friendly, yet puzzled. Puzzled. Why was she puzzled? Then she examined me again. She rechecked the x-rays and the ultrasound results. Then she smiled warmly and told me the lump was completely gone. There was no reason for surgery. Sometimes this just happens. It can just dissolve on its own. We can't always explain it, she told me. I was more than delighted. Overwhelmed with gratitude, tears of relief filled my eyes. Driving home, I realized that the result, while fantastic, was not the point. The point was that I hadn't tried to will the outcome into place, but rather determined my response, whatever the outcome. The point was the leap I made, grabbing on with both hands and all my heart to my deeper inner self and to that which was larger than myself, love. While I wish I could say that I've never experienced anxiety again, that's just not so. It's an ongoing battle. While anxiety may return again and again, so does my ability and chance to express choice. This experience is a touchstone for me. It is indeed a transformative experience and changed the way I look at life. If I had to condense what I learned through this experience, I would borrow Viktor Frankl's words and say, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. The choice I made to embrace the deep beauty of each moment, the experience I had to literally see waves of love come off everything I looked at, was a life-changing moment. That afternoon, I felt intensely connected to something larger than myself, love. My simple act of letting go regrounded me to something so large that I no longer feel alone. In a blog by Ordinary Philosophy titled "On Being Part of Something Bigger Than Oneself," the author says, "I'm part of the great workings of the universe, of the great process of evolution, where all the stuff I'm made of was forged in stars and crafted into what eventually became me. Every bit of me used to be something else, and I'm intimately related to every single other thing in the universe. Every human being, every plant, every insect, everything that lives and moves is my cousin." That's how I felt. Not alone, connected to the whole universe. It doesn't mean I don't struggle now. It means I have memory of a time that grounds me in love, that I reach out to and enfold myself into when times get difficult. I am so very grateful. Thank you.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Please be seated. Please join with me in reciting these words for the extinguishing of our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm so relieved that I forgot I have one more thing to do. Let us hold up our hands to our neighbors, either in person or virtually. The benediction is number 480 from our hymnal. Let us open our minds and hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love. May it be so, blessed be, and amen. Thank you.
Hi in Zoom land. We're going to go to breakout rooms. We hope you enjoyed the service today. Please write your comments about the service in the chat. Thank you for attending today.